Good evening, everybody. Thanks for joining us tonight. It's the fourth time we're holding this class, and I'm appreciative of your time and your donations to the patient clothing cupboard as well as surgical care. So tonight we're going to be cooking biryani, which is a rice dish originally brought over by the Persians, or it's a Persian dish. And I think every culture has some kind of rice dish, and this is a staple in India as well. And there's many forms of it, and many ingredients can go into it, and spices as well. I try to keep it simple and flavorful as well. So I hope everybody started heating up their oil and added the cumin seeds and bay leaf. If you have caraway seeds that you've added, that's great as well. So we'll warm up the oil. As you can see, I'm doing that on 2 pans. And you had the option tonight to cook 3 different types, choosing one of them, either vegetarian with tofu or potato, one with shrimp and one with chicken. So I'm gonna cook 2 out of the 3. I've already cooked 1 earlier today because my stovetop's not big to accommodate 3 big pans. So I hope everybody's warming up their oil and cumin seeds. And once it's kind of warmed up, I usually do it on medium heat. We're gonna add the onions, okay? Onions, garlic, and chili peppers if you want to. And if you're cooking the tofu dish, you can add ginger to it as well. Okay, so I'm gonna add that to the warm oil. So I usually saute this on medium heat until the onions are kind of golden brown or caramelized. That's what kind of brings the flavor of the onions as well. So you want to do this for a few minutes until the onions are brown. By heating the oil with cumin seeds, caraway seeds, and bay leaf, it'll add flavor to the oil itself. So we're going to do this for a few minutes until the onions are brown. You don't want to do it on too high of a heat, otherwise it'll burn the ginger and garlic basically. So this may take 5 to 7 minutes. So if anybody has questions or concerns about the start to this class, you can certainly ask me. I apologize if my dogs bark. They can get impatient and want in and out of the house, so I had to deal with them. Add the garlic onions right away. And then if you're doing the tofu dish, you can add the ginger as well. You can add ginger to any type of dish you're making, but I thought with the tofu, the ginger would add a little bit of flavor to the tofu itself. How's everybody doing with that? This probably takes a bit the longest part to caramelize them. And after they're kind of caramelized, the next step, once they're kind of browned and caramelized, we're gonna add the turmeric to it. Just the turmeric, no other spices. So you've gotta wait until they're caramelized and brown. And then what we're gonna do is add the turmeric, which is the next step after this. But prior to doing the turmeric, I want you to take the bay leaf out, because sometimes it's a little challenging to take it out once everything's in.
We have a question. Last time we put these knives in coconut oil, and we just wondering why we're using olive oil.
I'll use different types of oil, coconut oil or olive oil. It doesn't really matter. There's no real rhyme or reason. It's just whatever I feel that day and I want to use, basically. Certainly coconut oil is more of an organic type of oil to use and supposedly healthier, but you know, olive oil is pretty healthy as well. So
What's your preferred wine to have while you're cooking, as well when you're eating?
I actually don't drink while I'm cooking, so very rarely I'll have a bit of red with my meals. They say with Indian food, you know, sweeter wines are probably the best. So Rieslings, Gewürztraminer, rosé, those kind of wines are good because Indian food tends to be spicier, right? So the onions should start to be browning a bit. So we'll probably do a few more minutes of this. And then you're going to take out the bay leaf. And still on medium heat, so no need to turn it down or up at this point. You can probably start smelling the aromas of your onions right now, and the garlic and ginger. And again, the key is to do it on sort of lower heat, so you don't burn things, basically. So I'm going to take my bay leaf out. And a couple more minutes of browning this. Then we're going to add the turmeric only as the next step. My young dog's barking. He needs to get out, I think. So if your onions are brown or lightly brown, what you can do is add the turmeric at this stage. Okay, so the turmeric, no other spices, just the turmeric. Tablespoon. Perfect. You're going to stir that around for a bit, probably a couple of minutes. The reason I was never taught this growing up to add the turmeric at this stage. I always added it with all the other spices, but someone had told me because of the turmeric dryness and the strength of it, it's better to do it at this stage so it soaks into the caramelized onions. So we're going to stir that for a couple of minutes.
Is wondering what the name of your barking assistant is.
So I have two dogs, Victor and Hugo. And the older one is 8 years old, the younger one's a year and a half. And they're quite different. The older one is quite laid back, and he's basically a human. He only loves humans, basically. The younger one's a bit of a rascal right now, but hopefully he'll settle down. So a couple more minutes of stirring this around, and then the next step is we're going to add the bell peppers, the green beans, the cabbage, a quarter cup coriander, a quarter cup of green onion. And then what you're going to do is turn the heat up to medium high, and we're going to stir fry for about 5 to 7 minutes. So this is the bell peppers, cabbage, green beans, quarter cup coriander, quarter cup of the green onions. So we're going to add those now. You're going to put the heat up to sort of medium high. I'm going to stir this around for about 5 to 7 minutes. If you find it sticking on the bottom, you can decrease the heat a bit. And it's going to be constant stirring for the next 5-7 minutes. Be your workout for tonight.
Rosemary says that her dog keeps looking for your mouth.
Oh, because they're barking? What's Rosemary's dog's name, and what kind of dog?
Singh is a Walker-Town/Australian Shepherd.
Cool.
Cynthia's dog is also barking.
So at this stage, I'd probably add the rest of the spices. So you have your garam masala, salt. If you want to make your dish hot, the option was to add red chili pepper. Yeah, so you can add that at this point as well. Again, you can turn down the heat a bit if it's sticking to the bottom. So constant stirring so it doesn't burn on the bottom, because you put the heat high a bit, so you don't want to burn things. Hence the constant stirring.
Those are also like memories. And these bring up memories for you, cooking dishes.
Yeah, anytime you cook Indian food with the spices, it's going to bring back memories for sure. You know, as a kid, I still remember the smell of getting omelet with butter from a street vendor in India. And I still remember that smell, and I think my siblings would say the same thing. And that memory will probably never leave, you know. You can still, I can still have that sense of smell of that event or incidents in my life. And of course, if you're in India, it's just a constant aroma of spices, right? So. So keep stirring. If your hand's getting tired, then you can switch hands basically, but
Everyone's commenting on the beautiful colors.
yeah, I hope they're enjoying making this at this stage. You could eat this actually, because all the spices are in there already, and all you would have to do is cook the veggies a bit more, and you could actually eat this with naan, right? You can get pre-mixed biryani spice that you can use as well. I've never actually tried it or used it. It's just like using curry powder, which is a pre-mixed curry, but I like to mix my own or spices together for my dishes, basically. How's everybody doing at this stage? Any questions?
What are Victor and Hugo eating for dinner tonight?
So I'm pretty strict with their eating habits. So they usually eat around 3 o'clock, their final meal. And I'll give them a snack, you know, before bedtime, basically. But basically I cook them rice, some kind of meat and veggies for their meals. I buy kibble in case they have to go to dog camp or traveling, and it's easier that way. But otherwise I try to cook them, because I'm cooking all the time anyway, so I try to cook them real food. I try to give them real food snacks as well, like cucumber or cranberries or dates or almonds here and there, cashews here and there.
Looks and smells amazing so far. And one person comments, again, just like Singh.
Just like Singh. So those who are making the tofu biryani, I browned my tofu already, extra firm. This is just a bit over 2 cups, but more the merrier. So you can add that at this stage. Those making the other dishes, the chicken or shrimp, you can add that at this point as well. You're gonna stir fry this a bit. If you're cooking the shrimp or chicken dish, then you want to cook it till about 80% that it's cooked, because when you add the rice and water, it'll cook by steam thereafter. So you want to stir fry it a bit before then to sear it a bit. The tofu, it's basically cooked mostly already, right? The key to this dish is getting the rice to cook as perfect as you can. Hence, I chose the vegetables as I did because they don't really have a lot of water content, like mushrooms or eggplant or any of those things that will release a lot of water, right? That's why I cooked the cabbage a bit before, because it has a bit of water content to it. because that would affect how much water you would put in to cook the rice. So hence I chose vegetables that don't really give off a lot of water per se. So once your chicken or shrimp is kind of seared on all sides,
Are the beans or no already?
green beans, oh yeah, they're supposed to go in with the bell peppers.
Are there any other cuisines that you like to cook?
Italian, Thai, Greek. So we're gonna add the rice at this stage. So 1 cup. You're just gonna add the rice, all of it. You're gonna stir fry this for a couple of minutes on the same level of heat.
Lori and Locke are in Biryani Singh and will not be eating for another 3 hours. Should we add the rice now or wait and do it later?
Up to you. You can turn off the stove, and then when you want to eat again, you can turn it back onto medium high or high, and then put the rice in, stir fry it for a couple of minutes, and then add your water. That step can be done later as well.
Is the salt you add coarse kosher salt or regular fine table salt?
Yeah, you can use any type of salt you want. I just use regular table salt. So once you've stir fried this for a couple of minutes on medium-high heat, I usually add 1.5 times water to the rice. So I'm gonna add that now. Keep it on medium-high heat. You're gonna stir it in. So I'm going to turn it on high for a minute or so, just so the water starts boiling a bit or sizzling a bit. And once it does that, you can turn it down to low heat and cover it and then let the rice cook basically. So you can see on this pot, the water is starting to boil a bit. So I'm going to turn this down to kind of low, semi-low, and just cover it. Same thing's happening here. The water's starting to kind of boil a bit, so turn it down to kind of low, and then basically cover it until the rice is cooked.
Will the shrimp survive cooking that long? As we wait for the rice to cook.
Yeah, so you don't want to cook the shrimp fully through, like 70-80%, and then add the rice, and then the steam and covering it will cook it the remaining way basically. So pretty simple dish. Again, the key is getting the water content right for the rice, and yeah, cooking the rice, to perfection, quote unquote. And you can eat this on its own. You can eat it with raita, which we described in the instructions. You can add curry to it if you want, but usually it's eaten on its own basically. Sometimes you can have pickled spices. So in our culture, we use pickled mango or pickled lemon as a side as well. But again, the flavors are so full in this dish that you probably don't need any of those things. So I tend not to stir it too much when it's at this stage. You just let the rice cook, and sometimes you may think there's not enough water or too much, but it usually works out. So you just want the steam to cook the rice. You don't want to cook it on high heat, otherwise, it evaporates too fast and the rice may not cook. And if you leave it too long, it'll get mushy like risotto. The other reason to use long grain rice is, there's less risk of it becoming mushy basically, and it keeps the form of the rice, which is what you want in this kind of dish as well.
Are there any special ingredients that you need to purchase online, or do you get everything in town?
I've stocked up from down south for a while, so there are stores here that do sell Indian spices. So Freshco does, Independent does. Sobeys will have the common, turmeric, and they may not have garam masala, but you can easily make your own garam masala by looking online as well, right? And every culture seems to have a 5-spice mixture, right? Yeah, so a lot of things are available in town for sure.
Do you ever do mango chutney sauce as a topping?
For this dish, no, I haven't. You can do mint chutney, coriander chutney, a mix of mint and coriander. Yeah, those are sort of the common chutneys that we use. How's everybody doing?
The cliche gals said rather than garam masala, we had tikka masala on hand.
Sure. Let me know how it tastes. I've never tried that, but it's a spice, right?
Mugi masuri. Do you ever make samosas?
I think he's tried my samosas before, but yes, I do.
Piche says that it's very festive. It's very red with the tikka masala.
Which is fine. Yep, you can do that for sure. That's not a problem. Going back to the samosa, so growing up, Indian food can be very, very unhealthy. A lot of fried stuff, a lot of sweet stuff. Samosas were fried, basically a flour shell fried with potatoes inside. So over the years, I've kind of tried to make it more healthier, using a phyllo pastry as its outer shell and baking it basically, and using a combination of sweet and sort of regular potatoes. What's that?
This is the last class.
Yeah, Dr. Masri missed the last class on samosas. So you can see it's just cooking by the steam basically. And the rice is keeping its form, right? You can stir it a bit. And that's the key. You want the rice to keep its form basically. Fun, easy dish for sure. And easy and healthy basically too. I've never tried it with brown rice or quinoa. I've thought about trying it with quinoa or a mixture of rice and quinoa. I think that would be a good combination and more healthier in terms of protein content for those that make vegetarian. You can get a lot of protein through the quinoa. So that's an option as well.
Susan Plagio says she had to use ground cumin because they weren't able to find whole seeds. She's in Cochrane.
Hey, no worries.
Used about half the amount.
Yeah, perfect.
Mary Morrison says, I make a recipe called Inside Out Samosas, which is a filling without outside, almost a kind of spiced potato pancake.
Perfect.
It's a New York Times recipe.
Yeah, definitely. That's we make something called an aloo tikki, which you can make without the outer coating of chickpea flour coating or a batter. And yeah, certainly you can make inside out samosas. Sounds interesting. It's almost like a fritter. Yeah, so you're just going to let this cook. Again, you don't need to stir it too much because then, as the rice gets soft, and if you stir it too much, it will get mushy a bit. So, and did everybody cut any garnishing up? I typically use green onion and coriander, but you can add chilies or fresh ginger slices. That adds a good the flavor to the toppings as well. It's looking good.
What did your family meals look like during your program?
A lot of flatbread, roti versus rice. It's interesting, in India, depending on the region, you know, a lot of people eat more rice than flatbread. In northern India, it seemed like they eat a lot of flatbread, roti, naan. It's a lot of lentils, beans, yeah, that kind of thing. A lot of fried stuff, you know, growing up. I remember as kids, my brother and I, we would have, and friends would have competitions who could eat the most number of rotis, which is the flatbread. And I think we got to 15 or 16 at one point in one sitting. And yeah, I don't think I could do that again. The other interesting thing growing up is our temples have a free kitchen. And so after every service on Sunday, there's a free kitchen. In India, the temples are, you know, it's 24/7 free kitchen, right? So they're making food every day, 24/7 for people who come and visit. And so we grew up with that as well. And so it certainly centers around food for sure.
How long are you supposed to wait for this stage?
Until the rice cooks. Yeah. And you can test the rice out, you know. And you can stir it a bit, make sure it's not sticking to the bottom, right?
Is there a risk of overhandling the food?
Well, like I said, as the rice cooks and it gets soft, if you handle it too much, it'll kind of get mushy, right? So you can see here, you want the rice to keep its form, right? So. Still a bit wet.
Michael Burke says, thank you for the fun evening. You have my attention again.
Oh, you're welcome. Let me know, please send your feedback to Kendra and how it tastes. And again, it's a pretty easy dish. It covers your carbs, your veggies, and whatever protein you want to use. For vegetarians, you can use whatever. You can just put veggies in it. You can add potatoes to it. You can add potatoes to any of the dishes. Tofu, I've only tried tofu. I've never tried any other protein alternatives, but that's something to look into too. But I always find extra firm tofu easy to use and cook.
Dr. Singh, can you tell us a bit about the beautiful art you created? What was the inspiration?
So I've been doing art since I was a kid, and again, it's the same inspiration for me as food. I've been cooking since I was a kid, art, music since I was a kid. So sometimes I feel, you know, surgery's a hobby for me versus my passion. But my inspiration for art is I'm always trying to tell, like every artist, a story through my work. There's several years where I concentrated on doing sort of medical abstract kind of art, trying to portray a message medically through the art. So one of the prints that's up for a prize is a person basically in the critical care unit, and all the monitors and IV lines hooked up to them. So I was trying to portray, you know, like our life can be fragile and can change in a blink of an eye. The other two pieces, I'm always inspired by animals, you know, like just the beauty of nature. And then the other piece with the women in different color headdresses with no faces. If you look closely at the print, I didn't put any faces on them, but I wanted to show we're all sort of unique with all the different colors, but we're all the same by not showing their faces. That meaning, we all have our unique qualities and personalities, but really in the end, we're all the same as well.
People love the stories that you tell. Please share more.
What kind of stories you want to hear? Is everybody hearing the music in the background? Turned it off? Oh, okay. No. Be too much to set up. We're going to play some background music of my music teacher. And actually, he did a recent interview, and it's kind of ironic. I saw it like this week, and he's being interviewed by a TV station in India, and he had commented, like things like cleaning, sweeping the floors, doing laundry, etc., etc. Those are kind of household duties, but he said cooking is not a duty, but really it's an art or an art form, and that hit home too. And he likes to cook as well, and so I kind of align with him in that on that thinking as well. So you can play a bit of his music as So your rice should be almost cooked, so you can probably turn the stove off and just leave it on the stove top. And you can enjoy the meal, basically. Again, you can enjoy it with a bit of yogurt or raita. The apron was gifted to me by my niece and nephew many years ago. And they've actually become very interested in cooking as well at home, according to my brother and my sister-in-law. So I think they find the creative aspect of cooking joyful as well. So this apron is a gift from my niece and nephew, basically. So I've turned my stovetops off, and then the remaining heat from the stovetop will keep it warm, and the rice should be cooked by now. And did anybody have any issues with the rice? Too mushy, not cooked?
You're a hero. Thank you, Jefferson. Cooking is a calming, happy place as well.
Totally. It's if you're in the moment when you cook, and in reality, it's a form of meditation in a sense, because anything can be a meditation if you're in the moment doing that thing, right? So whether it's cleaning or playing music or cooking, so that's the way I see it.
Rice is perfect. Rice is cooked and smells awesome. That was for everyone. Tastes great. Dishes done already.
Yeah.
Rice not cooked yet, but I have moisture left, so it'll.
Yeah, just make sure you keep it on low heat if there's still some liquid left. Otherwise, it'll get too mushy. You want it to cook it slow. Yeah.
Crystal says Northern Ontario is lucky to have you. Dr. Singh, thank you for sharing your passions with us.
Oh, you're quite welcome. I'm lucky to be here.
This is great. Thank you so much for sharing your recipe and time so generously. Very delicious. Thank you.
Very good. Hope everybody enjoys the dish. Easy to make. I want to hear stories of people making it on their own. Please send pictures to Kendra, and I'll be judging and picking the top 3. And happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. And we'll see you probably in June. And if you have any class ideas or things you want to learn, just forward them to Kendra.
Thank you. Mrs. Claus approves, and so does Santa. Thank you, Delicious. Thank you for your time, donations, recipes, loving these nights. Happy holidays. Thank you so much. I found a lot of joy during this last year as well. Looking forward to the next class. Happy holidays. Rogi Masari wants to know if you do private lessons.
Dr. Masri's been invited many times. He's welcome to come anytime to learn. I'm waiting for him to cook for me, actually, Lebanese food. So I'm calling you out live to cook me food.
To do a class.
To do a class. Hey, I can be your sous chef if you want to teach a Lebanese class, Dr. Masri.
Lots of great things.
I'm gonna plate one of these and then put some garnishing on it to show you.
Lots of people are saying they signed up for a Lebanese class.
Perfect. Dr. Masri's on the ball now. He's under the microscope.
Dr. Prentice says thank you very much. Thank you both for this wonderful fundraiser. Thanks for sharing, for cooking this.
Voila. There you go. So this is the plating that I've created. It's pretty simple. You can add your little raita beside it. I use Greek yogurt and cucumber, garlic, coriander, chilies, salt, and that's it. Pretty simple. Have a good night, everybody. Take care.